Alright, so in our next straight-to-video segment, we're going to talk about The Grudge, which is a franchise that I'm not, like, totally in love with and never have been, but I've never really disliked it either. It's one that I come back to, like, every, like, 5 or 7 years or something. But I did do a whole video talking about the remake and the original, with The Ring and its original as one video several years back on this channel, if you want to seek that out. And I still pretty much feel the same about it, where it's like, it has its, you know, well-constructed moments here and there, and it's a very, very well-made movie, even with, you know, being, because even going along with that American remake thing, there's just something like, it's almost like a dirty word to say that, but it's really not bad for what it is, and obviously I think it benefits a lot coming from the same director. And I think the same could be said for the second movie, which I didn't talk about in that video, but the second movie it kind of accomplishes the same thing, where it's like, it has moments that are really well made, and you can appreciate that. But the thing that the first movie has that the second doesn't is that the first one does still have, like, genuinely freaky moments. And while the second movie is well made, and I certainly wouldn't call it a bad movie, it does suffer from not really being scary at all, which is interesting. So, and again, despite being from the same director, makes that weird. The one memory that really stands out about The Grudge 2 is that when it came out, when I went to see it at the theater, it was like a late 10 o'clock showing. It was in our biggest auditorium, and I was the only person in there. And even then, it was like even at like 15 in that theater alone at 10 o'clock, it was like, this is fine, but it's not like getting to me at all, which was surprising. So, with those two in mind now, we can go on to our straight-to-video sequel, which was The Grudge 3 from 2009. And like White Noise 2 we talked about last year, this is another one where it was released straight to DVD here in the US, but internationally it did have, like, some sort of theatrical release. And another thing that makes it kind of depart from what you typically think of with a straight-to-video sequel is this one actually does pick up where the second movie left off and goes right from there with Jake in the asylum and all that. And there was Shawnee Smith. Shawnee Smith is one of those actresses that I really love, where it's like, even if she's in a bad movie, she's going to be the best thing about that bad movie. And she kind of does that here a little bit also. But you'll notice how sort of brutal and bloody this opening scene is, which is interesting because I do remember when that third, not this one, but that third theatrical Grudge movie came out at the very beginning of 2020. The only thing I really remember about it was John Cho was in it, I think. There's a review for it on this channel, but I cannot remember anything about it at all. The one thing I do remember is that I feel like it was kind of hyped up that it was an R-rated Grudge movie, and everybody was like, oh, finally we're going to do something like really hardcore with The Grudge, and that ended up not happening. But it also wasn't the first R-rated Grudge movie, because this one is rated R, actually, and I do like the way they show that off in this opening scene, where, like, we see the brutality after this attack, and we see, like, the blood and all that, and there's just this sort of almost hardcore quality to it. I feel like after that, it doesn't really happen again. Like, it's kind of bloody at the end, I think, but in between, it's basically like any other bloodless Grudge movie. And I'm not even necessarily saying I need bloody movies in general for them to work, or a bloody Grudge movie for it to work. But it's like, it did feel like it was setting up something. It was going to kind of take a different approach to the way this was all depicted and the horror of it was all depicted, and then just kind of didn't do it. I feel like why I wanted to address it, so there's that. And as far as, you know, the attack sequences, it's weird to call them that, because I don't know that I would use the words attack sequences when talking about the other movies. And what's happening here is it doesn't really feel like there's much build-up. Because what really would come from, like, good horror is the long tension and long build-up, and ratcheting that up as you get to what is ultimately the attack sequence, which more often than not is just sort of cutting to the next scene anyway, after, like, a ghost lunges. But I feel like in this movie, there's, like, no build-up to the attacks whatsoever. Like, the characters are just kind of being mundane, and then a ghost will suddenly appear and attack them, and then we'll go to the next thing. This one doesn't even have the benefit of doing the non-linear timeline, if I remember correctly. And it's like, I don't even think those were completely necessary in the other movies, but they gave it some flavor. So this one kind of feels like it's just very, very straightforward. We're just going to tell this story. And so when you do because in the other movies, it's like when an attack would happen and there'd be that cut to black, what would be the really interesting thing is you wouldn't know where we were going to be in time when it faded back in, and that was kind of exciting. And this one just like, oh no, we attack, we cut to black, and then we just keep going. And it just feels really like bland, and like really not a lot is happening until something happens at the last second. Like, there's a moment that I feel like kind of highlights this, where we see one of the characters, I think it's the sister, comes out of a door and then walks through like the entryway of an apartment building, and then goes out the door and shuts it. And then just when you're thinking like, why are we watching this? Like, why are we lingering on her leaving so much? And then it just abruptly whips back to the door she came through first, and the ghost's face is in the window. And that's the scene. And so, when you look at that, it's like, you could see it from one perspective, where it's like, maybe that was the idea, was to not have tension, because, like, you would think there would be something in the atmosphere when we're watching her walk from one door to another, to sense like there's something off, and it's like to put you on the edge of your seat of like, what is something happening here, what's it gonna be? And then they jump on you with the whip back to the door and the ghost is there. It could be that they didn't want there to be too much tension to throw you off, that it was going to whip back to the door and show you the ghost. But the thing about it is, I feel like the fact that I can't tell which one they were going for means that neither one works anyway. Whichever one they were going for there. So I feel like that's just an example of how there's just an absence of like build-up and tension and atmosphere in this one. And it's like, it's basically just sort of killing time with its boring characters until something happens. Somebody gets attacked or somebody gets killed or whatever. And even the early scenes, like when the girl gets pulled into the bathtub or when Jake gets attacked in the opening scene, it's like there's no build-up to it. Like, the scenes are just happening and then just, that's it. Like, there's no feeling of anticipation or anything like that. And like I said, maybe the point is to catch you off guard, but I feel like movies like this, and supernatural movies like this, like, their whole identity is kind of, like, the whole backbone of their identity is, like, the feeling of the atmosphere and the tension before something happens. And it's like the fact that something happening should just be the period of a long sentence. A long, really good sentence. And it's nothing. It's just, like, regular scenes with nothing going on and no tension whatsoever being punctuated by, oh, by the way, this is a ghost movie. Boo. And that's what happens for, like, an hour and a half. And it does go down this path eventually of, going for possession, and then for its climax, it does become a very basic, we've seen this a million times before, it's the main character's brother that goes insane this time. Usually it's like a dad. So now it's an uncle, which might as well be the same thing in this particular instance. And it's just all very tired. We know exactly where it's going, all the way up to this very predictable, very old as time fake out, where we think everything's okay, and then, oh, somebody's still possessed. And just everything is just, you can see, like, every single beat. It's something you've seen a million times before, and it's like, it makes you wonder why this was even made. And it's like, I do think it was one of those cases where there were good ideas behind it, but then, like, as production rolled on, and as other people got involved, and as things changed hands, it just turned into this very safe, very predictable, straight-to-video thing. And the annoying thing about it, too, is that there are scenes in here that hint that there could have been something, like, there are hints that the people making it knew what they were doing, and knew what they, like, could have made to make an effective horror movie. Like, there's, the moments when, there's the moment when she's in bed, and she's, like, stroking her hair, and then she leaves, and the lights go out, and then the ghost hand appears, and starts stroking her hair, and it's like, there's something creepy in there, but I do think it's more of a... It would have had more of an impact if it was like, we didn't know right away. That is, like, to do the whole thing of having her leave and turn the lights out, and to see the hand and how white it is, it's like, we know right away it's the ghost. I feel like it would be great if we were in her position, where we didn't know right away that it was a ghost that was stroking her hair and touching her face and all that. But like, there's a creep factor in the scene, but like, it just... There's definitely more they could have done to make it sneak up on us more. And naturally, they don't do that. Like, it's not even... There's many moments where the ghosts just appear, and it's not even startling when the ghosts appear. It's just like, it's like they're like any other character. It's like a parody movie where it's like, oh, hey, I forgot you're here. I forgot you're haunting this place. How are you doing? It's basically what it feels like when they pop up. And, like, there's another moment that, like, is right out of The Conjuring, or could have been right out of The Conjuring 2, and this was 7 years prior to The Conjuring 2. This could have had the upper hand on that. The moment when she comes out of the painting. It's like, now, in retrospect, with The Conjuring 2 in existence now, it feels like it could have been a moment like that, where Valak's hands, like, come up, and it comes out of the painting. But then they just basically do, it's Samara coming out of the TV. Is exactly what it turns into. And it's like, they could have had the upper hand on The Conjuring 2, and instead they're like, why don't we just do The Ring again? That's exactly what it looks like when she falls out of the painting. So it's like, that whole thing, it just feels very like, let's go back to this very known thing and be as safe as possible. In the moment when, like, there's the picture and the painting, and then, like, we see the handprints on the floor, there's something there that could have totally worked. Like, I can totally imagine if that had been, like, really built up more, and then this was, like, kind of the payoff, was, like, seeing the handprints and stuff like that. There was totally a way to do this. This is a James Wan movie waiting to happen, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And it's just way too basic and way too in a hurry to get to the ghost jumping out and doing their whole thing. So that's... And like I said, the fact that this is all leading to the whole possession thing anyway, and it's going to be that underwhelming when it gets to its, you know, final moments, it's like, it's just such an empty experience. Like, there's no... Like, there's even a moment at the beginning that feels like it should have a bit more of a... like a chilling feeling when the couple are making out when they first get into the apartment, and then she sees, like, there's like a piece of police tape on her, and then she looks around and realizes this was once a crime scene. And it's like, describing that sounds like it would be a great way to do it, because they're making out, they don't see right away that there's, like, you know, police tape on the floor and stuff like that, and then it, like, it dawns on them, oh, we're making out in the middle of what was once a bloody crime scene. And so, stuff like that, where it's like, there's these seeds of things that should have grown into something that really works, and is really great and really terrifying, and it's not here. There's actually a moment when she's talking to the boyfriend, and she's trying to explain, you know, like, I saw the ghost, I saw this kid, and stuff like that, and he says something like, what you're talking about with that kid, is it creepy? Okay. Is it scary? I don't know, maybe? And it's like, wow, you're watching the movie too, aren't you, dude? That's exactly how you could pretty much explain what's been going on. And it's, yeah. And some of these where it's like, some of these straight-to-video sequels can sort of sneak up on you and be, like, really high quality, like we were just talking about, like, White Noise 2 and stuff like that. But this is one that I feel like really fits that bill of, this is very much straight to video, and probably what you would think of when you think of just sort of like lazy, just churn it out, straight to video stuff. So, but I mean, it could be worse. It could be so much worse. The fact that it's bland might be like its biggest issue. Where it's like if it was more bad, that might be better than what it is now, where it's just blank. It just leaves you with nothing. So that's really unfortunate. So that's pretty much how I feel about this one, I think. At this point, we're shooting everything out of order. There might be like one more of these, maybe one or two more of these, as we continue to bounce around and do all these different segments for October. And yeah, we're ending with a franchise over 3 videos, and then one big video that we streamed with the 4 of us will be what goes out on Halloween, and that'll be this month. So hopefully this has all been going well, and until the next thing, I think that's it.